Thank you for joining us this morning. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes whilst other people join. So yes, thank you very much for dialing in today. We've got quite a few people registered, so we'll just wait another moment or two and then we'll begin. Okay, so welcome to today's webinar, which we're going to look at how you can launch your firm's fully branded onboarding app powered by eCOS. My name's Faye Stenning, I'm the marketing manager here at InfoTrack, and I'm delighted to be joined by Sam Jordan, Chief Operating Officer at InfoTrack, as well as Elise Alkner, eCOS Sales and Operations Manager, and Jade Williams, eCOS Product Specialist, who will be talking you through today's session. So before we begin the webinar, I would just like to draw your attention, please, to a Q&A tab, which is located at the bottom of your screen. We'll be running the Q&A at the end of this session, so please type any questions you might have along with your name into the Q&A box. That way, if we run out of time or your question requires further clarification, we can extract your information and follow up with you directly after the webinar. I'll now hand you over to Sam. Thank you.
Thank you, Faye. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to round 2 of the launch. So we did the first one of these a couple of weeks ago, had hundreds of people on it again, like we do today, which is really encouraging. So big thank you for joining us. I mean, the background to this is obviously the kind of huge changes that we're seeing in the legal industry and the adoption of legal tech taking off, particularly driven by what's happened over the last couple of years. I'm not going to talk any more about that. We did a really great event a month or so ago called the Onboarding Summit, which you can find on our website and also at the onboardingsummit.co.uk. There is a ton of really interesting content on there that covers everything you need to know about client onboarding and has loads of great stories and experiences and insights from other law firms which we can share. So today we're going to focus on the launch of the onboarding app. This is the latest step in a 4-year journey that's probably seen, I think it's 5 major iterations of the software and thousands of minor updates. And it's probably worth saying that we owe a big thank you to the hundreds and hundreds of clients that have supported us and helped us on the journey. Some of which I can see are on the call today as well. And actually, you should see your feedback and help you've given us kind of reflected in the product that we're going to be sharing with you today, which is an exciting next step. And it's probably worth saying as well that this is a step built on what was already award-winning software even before we've kind of added the branded features that you'll see today. It's always been the case with eCOS that we've been striving to make client onboarding for law firms faster and easier and more secure, and that actually goes for both the law firms and the end consumers. So that's what it's all about. That's actually what you'll should get a sense of today from the guys. So I'm going to hand over to Liz and Jade now. They're going to talk to you about the new user interface, both on web and mobile, that we've developed, which is brandable in every firm's own branding. And then also talk to you about some of the identity verification stuff we can do and the safe harbor checks that you're now able to complete on your own branded app. Liz, over to you.
Thanks, Sam. So thank you all for joining us today. As Sam's mentioned, these improvements were based on 4 years working closely with hundreds of law firms and managing individual onboarding experiences and tens of thousands of these onboarding experiences. We've used this experience to make the process faster and easier for consumers and law firms, and we've looked into reducing the onboarding process to hours and even minutes, and our record completion time is, I think, 16 minutes from the moment of ordering. So the aim of this project was to ensure that we have intuitive design, clear actions and instructions, signposting the journey and celebrating completed tasks. So the dynamic forms and net question buttons are there for ease and speed, just to ensure that the journey is much more user-friendly and the consumer has an enjoyable onboarding experience, essentially. So I'll hand over to Jade, who's going to show us the updated user interface, and then we'll flip back and talk about our safe harbor journey.
Thank you, Liz. So yes, with the updates, the first thing we did was update the actual email templates for the clients. So they look a lot smoother, a lot more sort of intuitive to sort of break things down a lot easier for your clients. We then also updated your client's journey as well. And again, as Liz mentioned, this includes the use of sort of what's next buttons to sort of guide your clients through exactly which tasks need to be completed. The checklists have also been updated as well to look a lot smarter and a lot more sort of conclusive as to which tasks are outstanding. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen just to show you guys what this looks like. So first of all, once you send your orders out to your clients will receive this email here. So this will have all your logo and your branding. It gives your clients a little bit of an overview as to the matter and the address it is using. It then just gives them a brief breakdown as to what is asked of them and what they'll need to have with them before they start their onboarding process. So your clients are then going to click the Start Now button, and this is going to bring them through to their workspace here. They then will need to send themselves an access code so that they are able to gain access, and this just increases the security for your clients. So I'm going to go ahead and input that for you, and they'll then verify that code, and that's then going to open up their workspace. So as you can see,
Jade, sorry, it's Harbour.
Yeah.
I think you might need to refresh your screen. You're stuck on the email.
Let me try that again. Apologies. There we go. So this just gives them steps through 1 to 5, depending on which tasks it is that you've sent out to your clients. There may be additional or less steps there as well. And then we have these sort of progress trackers within each step so that your client can see exactly what's being asked of them. So in terms of this forms, I'm just going to go ahead and show you what this looks like. So your client will first be asked to have this sort of personal information form that will go out, and each subsection is going to have a percentage marker so your clients can see exactly their progress and what questions are left outstanding. We also have this next required question button. So this will take your client straight to the question that they may have missed out and just makes it very clear and easy for them to fill in the forms. Click next. And then they may look up their postcode to make this part nice and quick for them. Select from the drop-down list. Now, because these are smart forms, depending on the questions and the answers, it may generate further questions if need be. And that means that we can just obtain all the information that's needed for them. Now, once the form's completed to 100%, there will be a pop-up that will just let them know that this form is now complete. They then have the option of submitting that form now, or they can do it later if they want to review the form before they proceed. Once all the forms have been completed, they will then be taken through to their signing of the forms. Now, this can only be done once the form's reached 100% completion. So because my purchaser questionnaire is not complete, it's telling me I can't sign those yet. So we're just going to go in and very quickly fill this in. And once that is completed, it will take me through to my what's next step and tell me that I do need to sign these forms as well. So this is the web journey for your clients. It looks very similar to the app, but the app will contain some additional steps as well. Liz, I'm going to hand back over to you.
Thank you. So I think we are all sort of aware of this safe harbour standard that the HMLR introduced, I think about a year ago now. So the aim of this ID check is to provide conveyancers a step-by-step list of requirements for when using digital services to verify their client's identity securely and conveniently online. Now, it is only optional, but it does offer it means that in the event that conveyancers client who are not they are claimed to be, that HMLR would not seek recourse against the conveyancer if they're operated in compliance with the standard. Now, there are 4 steps to meeting these requirements. So we have step 1, we need to obtain the evidence. So what this means is you must find out who the person is you're representing and who they say they are. So how do we meet this requirement? So there are only 3 acceptable forms of evidence that meet these requirements, and they do hold that NFC chip. So that includes biometric passports, identity cards from the EU or EEA, and a UK biometric residence permit. So once you obtain the evidence, you must check the evidence. How do you do this? So you must check that the evidence meets the first requirement and that it is genuine to ensure that it's not being forged and still covered. So you can use this by going to an identity check provider to verify you that for that document and the cryptogenic security features. So what you'll see in our demo shortly is that our provider, GBG, provides us with that NFC data extraction and scanning. So step 3, match the evidence to the identity. So you must check that the person presenting the information matches the photo in the evidence provided. So you do this via, again, an identity check provider, and to ensure that the biometric information captured from a liveness check. So Jade will go through how we do this liveness check in the demo shortly. And then finally, we must obtain evidence to ensure the transferor, borrower, or lessor is the same person or entity as the owner. So this requirement needs to be met by the conveyancer representing a transferor, borrower, or lessor. So within our offering, our eCOS app offering, with your branded app, we do offer you a level check, a standard check and an enhanced check. So the enhanced check, the VOI Plus, is our recommended option and is what offers you the core of an AML check, including your PEPs and sanctions. And it does mean you can achieve Land Registry's Safe Harbour compliance standard. So within this, we also offer open banking technology to offer you the ability to do digital source of funds and therefore sort of enhancing your compliance and ensuring you're carrying out your due diligence. I will hand over to Jade, who will now show us the Safe Harbour offering via our branded app solution.
Thank you, Liz. So we're just going to go through and share this with you. So this is via the app. So as you can see here, again, we do have that checklist for your clients, and we'll need to go through to the verification of identity step. So you can see we have this identity details section. Now within there, it just asks your client to confirm their name, their date of birth, and the address, and whether that's the address that they're selling if it is a sale. Once that's completed, your client can then go through to their identity document. So there is a privacy notice for your clients to have a read of first so that they're aware of exactly what's being done and how their information is being used. And they will need to consent to this before continuing. It's then going to ask your client to select their issuing country. So if you are working with any clients who are based overseas or they have international documents, they can reselect their issuing country from the drop-down list. So we're going to go to ID scan. Now, obviously with my document, for security reasons, I have covered this up. So what it will do is, originally when completing this, it will sort of fail this and will ask me to try again. But your client will need to put their whole document within the frame and make sure that their device is being held still, otherwise it will detect that blur. And then they can just take that picture. So once they select finish, it is going to ask them to just retry that for this reason, because my document has been covered up and there is a blur. So I'm just going to stop sharing this whilst I go through to the next stage. Take that picture. So that's just uploading again. And then that's then going to take me through to my Safe Harbour. So during this process, not only is it extracting the data from the picture of the document, but it's also scanning the document for a chip. So, sorry, that has failed that again. And that's the image captured. There we go. So if your client does attempt this 3 times, it will then, for security reasons, block that. But once it's completed, it will then take your client through to the Safe Harbour. So it guides them really easily as to what it is that they'll need to do, and just make sure they hold it together and keep still. And then it's just going to scan that. So as that's scanning, those circles at the bottom are then going to fill in blue. And then once it's scanned that chip within the passport, it's then just going to take them through to the next step. So that's just loading. The next step is the biometric face scan. So they will need to position their face within the frame and take their photo. So that's just taking key measurements on your client's face, from eyes to ears, nose to mouth, and mouth to jaw, and then comparing those with the photo within the chip on the document. So that identity document stage is now complete. So we're going to upload an address document as supporting evidence. So we've recently just extended this list from the basic 3 of utility bill, council tax statement and a bank statement. And we've added in a driving licence where it's not being used as proof of identity, a tenancy agreement or a mortgage statement. So I'm going to go through and select a bank statement and I'm going to take a photo of that. Your client can then just review that photo and then once they're happy, select use photo. It then just gives them the option again of reviewing that. And we're going to select continue. And then it very clearly just gives them that green tick up at the top, just to let them know that our identity check has now been done. And you can see we have that what's next button at the bottom for the next step that needs to be completed. So that is the ID check and the safe harbour. Liz, hand back over to you.
Thank you. I think we'll pick up any questions if any have come through.
Thank you, Elise. Yes, we have got one question that's come through. Can the app handle a UK passport but international address for AML ID checks or vice versa?
Sure. Yeah, so what we will scan, we do have global AML data, so we can use a UK passport, but for that safe harbour check, we do require the NFC chip and the passport will have to be post 2006, as that's where we've introduced, that's where the British passports introduced like that NFC chip within that document. And yes, it does support AML for global addresses, yes.
Thank you. And we've had another question come through. If the client doesn't correctly complete the ID check and needs a log back, it needs to log back in to upload replacement or further documents, can we allow them access to do that, or do we need to ask you to allow them access?
They can log back in. So if you require an additional address document, they can go in and use that upload function. If we do need them to redo that journey, you can just add that additional check via your matter viewer in the eCOS screen in InfoTrack.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I think that's all the questions for the moment.
If we pick up, I think what we'll do is we'll go through the safe harbour result that will bring back, if your client has completed that check and has done the NFC journey, we can pull that back up.
Perfect. So this is a version of what the result may come back looking like for you. So up at the top, it's just going to break that matter detail down. So we have the date it was ordered and completed, a matter reference, transaction type, and description. So this first page is essentially just going to be a summary of the checks that have been done and the outcome of those. So it breaks it down into the actual document verification, the biometric face scan, address, PEP, sanctions, and then safe harbour where applicable. On the right-hand side, it's then just going to give you the image from the chip or the ID document and the live photo taken of your client. So you place them side by side for an easy comparison. Scrolling down is then just going to give you the granular detail of that check. So with the document verification, we've pulled through all the information from the document. And here we have the document status has been approved and verified. If there are any issues in verifying that document, it will read that there's been an error and display that exact reason as to why, so that you may take the appropriate action as soon as possible. Where an MRZ number is available, we will also do a check on that and provide you with the result here. You then have your biometric face scan result. So that's going to give you a validity of either a pass or a review. And if it is a review, again, it will just display the reason for that. We then have the address verification. So the name, date of birth and address has been put in by your client in the identity details section. And we'll then give them a validity of either a pass if at least 2 matches have been found for that name and date of birth against that address. If we can't find at least 2 matches, we'll just advise you that insufficient matches have been found so that you may gather sort of further evidence where it's necessary. You'll then receive your PEPs and sanctions that may come through. Within the PEPs, you will also be given a tier ranking so that you can see exactly where that PEP has sort of taken place and what that relation may be. And we then have that safe harbour result. So if your client was to use a document that does not comply with safe harbour regulations, it will just say that this is not applicable. But if your client uses a passport or an identity document with a chip, will give you that yes or no compliant result. And if it's no, it will give you an exact reason as to why. Underneath this, you then will receive a copy of the document itself. You'll receive an enlarged live photo and a copy of the supporting evidence, as well as the breakdown on the granular detail within that actual document. So each individual part of the document will be checked and you'll receive a result for that as well. Handing back over to you, Liz.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, I do actually. One of them is, can you switch between the app and web when you're onboarding?
Yes, so when you place your order via the eCOS order screen, so essentially what we will do is we'll have you switched onto this eCOS app role. So the order will always go out to your client to complete, download the app and go via the app journey. If they do prefer to go via the web journey, they do have that option within the activation email. But what you will find is they do go down that web route, you will not be Safe Harbour compliant. As we all know, Safe Harbour compliance is only applicable via app journey because of the software.
Okay, perfect. And can you do the forms on the app?
You sure can. So everything is completely dynamic. Your client will be able to switch between web and app journey. So they can start off in the mobile app if they want to. If they would rather switch to a desktop, they can just log back into the original email, go via web journey, and they can carry on via web.
Thank you. I have got a few more questions. So what's the setup process for the app, please?
So the setup process, if you just get in touch with myself or your eCOS product specialist, all we require are a high resolution logo, your marketing, your branding guidelines. We will start that build. It takes about 2 weeks, 10 working days just to get going on that. We do need to get app and Google SOAR approval, which does take a couple of days. And within that, we'll get your email set up, all the branding, and then you'll be ready to go within about 2 weeks.
Great. I've got a couple of questions relating to cost. The first one is, if the ID check fails anything, do you get charged again to resubmit? And the other question is there a setup cost?
There is no setup cost, so it is completely pay as you go. With regard to failed ID results, depending on the reason why these results fails, they will get refunded, but it is completely discretionary. And what we do is assist your clients in completing their ID checks just to ensure they do get that pass result.
Okay, lovely. And what happens if the client doesn't use a passport? Is it still Safe Harbour?
No, so the only documents that do work with Safe Harbour are 5 passports that have that NFC chip. So if I just hold up Jade's passport, you'll find that within these documents you'll have, it's a bit faded, but an NFC icon on the document. National identity cards, again with that biometrics, that NFC icon, and then a biometric residency permit. So it's only documents that have that NFC chip held in those documents that is applicable for a Safe Harbour check.
Okay, perfect. I've got another question here. What about for clients who have property in the UK but have moved back to, say, China and they want to sell? Would this work for them?
Yep, so again, so long as their document has that NFC chip, we can go through that journey for them, yes, with them.
Okay, and what is the basic cost to use this?
So the pricing is completely flexible within eCOS. So there is a price of £14 for the app and the ID check. So there's no setup cost. Within that, you've got your branded app, the ID check, and the customer support, the technical support team as well that assists you with that.
Okay, thank you. What is the alternative process to the Safe Harbour process or option?
So again, we would always recommend, if you do an ID check, if depending on what sort of ID check you're doing. So if it is that standard ID check, we'd always recommend you do an AML along with that. We do remind clients that this ID check is completely front office, and an AML is always recommended to go through that your extra due diligence. I struggle on that. And what we do also advise is just a reminder that this Safe Harbour check is not compulsory. It is just there as a standard for you to follow, just so it mitigates risk for the law firm, just to avoid you know, with those big hefty fines that we're all seeing with ID checks and ID fraud.
Thank you. Do we offer support for consumers who might find this journey difficult?
Yes, absolutely. So we do have a technical support team that are there to guide your clients through any sort of technical difficulties, whether that is their ID check or just completing their forms. And while we would never tell them how to answer their forms, we would always just give them technical guidance and then pass back to the solicitor if required. But with regards to the ID checks, we're always on hand to give them that technical support.
Perfect, thank you. What ID has the chip in it for Safe Harbour?
We've got biometric passports, post 2006 for British passports, identity cards from the EU or EEA, and UK biometric resident permits. So we find most resident permits do have that NFC chip.
Thank you. Just got a couple more questions for the moment. How long does it normally take to onboard a client?
So it really depends, depending on what's included in your sort of eCOS offering. We've turned around consumers in about 16 minutes, and that had an ID check, a personal information form, and a purchase questionnaire. We've seen turnaround times sort of reduced from 6 weeks to a couple of weeks, and that's including your TA forms, but we've seen them also done in a matter of days as well. So I think it also depends on how quick the consumer is quick to jump on and get that transaction to go ahead.
Absolutely. Okay, and the last question that I've got for you for the moment, does this provide ongoing PEP and sanctions checks in line with the 5th directive?
So we're currently, that's currently in development within our VOI offering. We do offer PEPs and sanctions check, but the ongoing monitoring is currently in development. But we do offer a standalone AML solution that does offer your ongoing monitoring.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you.
Thanks.
So we don't have any other questions at the moment. So I think we can leave it open for a few more minutes. But I would like to say a big thank you to Sam, Elise and Jade for your time today. And I hope everyone has found this session informative. If you do have any other questions about anything you've learned today, or questions in relation to eCOS generally through the InfoTrack platform, then by all means, please do contact us or reach out to your account manager who will be able to assist you. Oh, I've got another question that's just come in. 1 second. Let's get that. Can we see the open banking?
Yeah. Yep, so we can go through this and just show an existing order. We'll show the demo open banking journey. So what Jade's going to show is an existing order where you can actually go in and add any stage post-flight a verification. So we'll add a source of funds check to the order that she placed this morning.
So this is the InfoTrack homepage. If you need to track or amend any of your eCOS orders, we have this onboarding dashboard on the left. Selecting on that is just going to bring up all of the orders that have been placed at the firm. You can then narrow them down to just your own ones if you wish to. So this was the one we placed this morning, and we have this verification of funds column here. So if it's present along here, you can just add it within there. Otherwise, you can select on the actual matter. And then on the right hand side, it's just going to break the matter down for you. So to add a verification of funds, under the verifications, I'm just going to select the plus. And then I'm going to select the party I want to complete that, and then click add verifications. So that's then going to be added to this. You can see it's waiting. And then an email should go out to your clients just to let them know that a new task has been uploaded and we need to go through and complete that as well. So I'm just going to get that up for you as well, and just pause that sharing for a moment. I'm just going to have to re-put in my access code, because where I've come out of that workspace, it will ask you to re-enter that every time you go back in. And then verify. And then we have this verification of funds step here. So I'm going to go ahead and select start. So this is powered by a company called TrueLayer. So if your client wishes to sort of find out some more information on that company, when they click the start button, it will take them through to let them know exactly how the process works. But if your client doesn't have online banking, they can select this button here, and it will take them through to their upload page where they can go ahead and upload sort of further documents. Once we select start, your client will then be asked to add statements. So we're going to select here. And it then just takes them through to a list of banks. So these ones here are just the most searched, or they can search their own ones. And here is where it then provides them with the information on this process. So because it is authorised by the FCA, we do display that authorisation number. So if your client wants to do any further sort of digging, they can do so. Then just lets them know what data is being shared and how the data is being used. So we're going to go ahead and select allow. They will then be diverted to put in their online banking details, and that may be within their mobile banking app or their online banking portal. So select login. It's then just going to pull through all of the 12-month statements for any accounts that may be open with that bank. So you can see we've got several different ones here. If your client does not want a specific account to pull through, they can just select the bin button. And this circle here is just generating the bank statement into a PDF format. So that just allows your client the opportunity to review that statement before it gets submitted. So we'll just wait for that to load here. If your client has alternative accounts open with different banks, they can select the add statements button, and that will take them through to select another bank, and then they can pull the accounts through there. But we can just go ahead and view that bank statement, and it's just going to bring up a preview of that with all the pages that they can then go through and check. We then select submit statements. You can see we've received that green tick up here to let us know that part has been done. We have that what's next button, or we can go ahead and view those bank statements again if we'd like to. But that is the open banking side of things. Faye, if I hand back over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much. A couple more questions that have come in. The first one is, once the ID check has been carried out, how many years does this stand for, please?
I wouldn't be able to answer that, actually. I'd have to check that and come back to you if I can.
I'm aware that the data's held for 7 years within the system, but I think in terms of how long the check lasts, that would be up to the sort of firm's procedures and policies as to how often they want to update those ID checks.
Okay, all right, thank you. Does the SOF system remind the client to upload statements for all accounts?
Just the what system, sorry, Faye?
The SOS, source of funds system.
Does it update the...
Does it remind the client to upload statements for all accounts?
So it won't remind, but in our email templates, what we do advise is there is a question that prompts them, please upload any bank statements or provide any bank statements that are applicable to the transaction. Okay,
lovely. And in following on from that question, does it also ask them, or does the client questionnaire ask them what the actual source of funds is?
Yes, yeah, we do capture that in our personal information form.
Lovely, thank you. And what does the source of funds report look like once generated? What summaries does it provide?
So Jade will be able to pull up a sample. What we do capture is 12 months worth of transactions, and then we do group them into top 20 debit and credit.
Okay, great. Is there a facility for the client to add other sources of funds, for example, a gift or a loan?
Yes, so we also have on the eCOS ordering screen the option to ID check a gifter, and along with that we do capture key information, so again where the source of funds are coming from, who that gifter is, in a gifter form, in a gifted deposit declaration form.
Okay, lovely.
Sorry, Faye, I'm just going to go ahead and share this screen just to show you what that verification of funds check comes back as. So it will look something very similar to this. So again, you'll have all that sort of matter information up at the top, as well as the account information where applicable. And it then just takes those 12 months and splits them up into the top 20 debit and credit transactions. So that's in terms of the amount, and that's listed highest to lowest. You also have an itemization of each individual transaction and a brief description. Scrolling down will then give you the full 12-month statement, so you can see any ingoings, outgoings, and balances, as well as smaller transactions as well.
Great, thank you. Can clients perform the source of funds check on the app the same as the website?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything is fully dynamic. Whether your client does it through the app or a web journey, if you are switched on to place your orders via the app, everything that you order within eCOS, so your onboarding questionnaires, your ID check and your source of funds check, everything can be completed within your app. Yeah.
Lovely. And can the client link LISA or HTB ISA accounts?
So unfortunately not. There isn't an open banking function for any ISAs or LISAs. So we do savings accounts, mortgage accounts and joint accounts, and obviously current accounts.
Okay, great, thank you. What if you don't know that there is a gifter at the time of ordering?
You can go back into the existing order and add a gifter to that, or you can just place a new order. But as I said, we do capture that key information within that personal information form. So we do ask the consumer, your client, where their source of funds are coming from. If they do list a gifter, you can then go back, create a new order and send an ID check and a gifter form to the gifter to complete.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's the end of the questions that we have. So I don't know if anybody has anything else, any other questions. Oh, hang on one moment, sorry. Can we create our own questionnaires? Another question's just come through.
Unfortunately not, but what we do is we do work closely with our clients. So every sort of 4 to 6 months, we do sit down, feedback. If there's anything popular that does sort of get raised with us, we do incorporate them into our forms. So they do get refreshed every so often. What we do find is if we gave that facility, it would just there'd be no consistency of sort of the information captured, but it is a smart form functionality and electronic signature product.
Okay, thank you very much, Elise and Jade and Sam. We haven't got any other questions and we are almost running out of time now. So I think we probably need to start wrapping this up now. But if you do have any other questions about anything you've learned today or questions in relation to using eCOS through the InfoTrack platform, then please do reach out to us or contact your account manager who'll be happy to help you. This session is being recorded and we will send you a copy so that you can refer back to it during the course of the day. So all that's left to say is a big thank you so much to everybody who's joined us today, and thank you to our presenters, and I hope everybody has a lovely rest of their day. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cool, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.